Hey guys, I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another video. And today, I'm going to be talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. And I'm just going to hit this movie straight up immediately. This movie is really, really good. Now, I was pretty skeptical with this movie being released now, considering Marvel were in the works with this movie. Because previous X-Men movies, as well as the Deadpool movies, were part of 20th Century Fox. And ever since Disney bought it, now they wanted to merge it with the MCU. And pretty much recently, with a lot of Marvel content, it hasn't really hit it very well. Certainly since the days of Avengers Endgame. Some movies, I think, were good and good products, but there were some that were just a bit sloppy. So I was pretty worried when Disney were going to get their hands on this franchise. But they delivered. They literally just went out and said, 20th Century Fox, you had your time with this franchise, but now we're the bosses now. So fuck you, middle fingers in the air, and we're just going to make this one slap. And they really, really did. It is a really, really good film. Now, as much for my quirky humor and everything like that, let's actually just talk about this movie. So, one of the biggest compliments I have for this film is really Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's on-screen chemistry. It is brilliant, and they really, really put this throughout the whole theme of this movie extremely well. And never really once, when you look at their on-screen chemistry, that it actually feels boring or tedious. They really do try and bring the euphoria of this film up, and really bring out the comedy, the quirky moments, and even some really good writing as well, especially from both of them. So this is really one of the things that I really think this movie really does stand out, is really both of them. They just really, really did such a great job with this performance of this film. Now, I am also going to kind of not really hit any spoilers, but there are also cameo roles from previous Marvel movies that I'm not going to name. They actually used the cameos in this film pretty well, and I was really surprised that this is actually the first time doing it. Most cameo appearances I've seen in franchise these days are just like gimmick attention grabbers. They're meant to go, oh my god, I saw this one in this movie, but then there isn't really much substance to it. It's literally just there to just debate the audience. But in this one, it definitely didn't feel like that at all. And I think they use it very smart for this film. And I think one thing I will say as well, they do bring some elements of the MCU into this. So one of the things that they do bring a lot is the use of the TVA, as well as the use of the sacred timelines and all that stuff. I think mostly, if you're familiar with Loki, this is pretty much where this is going to head to. So for a lot of people, they may not be familiar with it if they haven't watched the Loki series, but I don't think you really need to get into it, because it's not really anything that's taken from the narrative of those films. It's mostly just like a cameo appearance, or essentially a theme that they're using in this film. So you won't feel like you need to understand it before watching this movie. But I also think in general, you don't have to watch any of the other Marvel movies to get into Deadpool Wolverine. And certainly you don't have to watch Deadpool 1 and 2 to get into this one. It does feel like an own movie that can stand on its own merits really well. So other things I really want to also mention as well. Even the writing is really good. It's very creative, and they actually element the comedy in this really well. So typical Marvel writing I've seen in the past, they would kind of just force out jokes that were just deemed to be a bit asinine. Now, when you look at the writing here as well as the comedy, they used it really well. Certainly with some cameo appearances, but also between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's role as Deadpool Wolverine, they do that really, really well. So this is something that I really think that is a massive compliment with this film. Also, I would say, I think the action and the sequencing of this film is really good. I really love the cinematography that they did with it. They really create this sort of cartoonish, bloody sort of action as well. They really didn't bring this down for a more general audience. This is definitely a mature film, as as the violence would literally just show on your face. It's literally just blood, gore, just constant, just stab wounds and everything. It is brilliant. Now, I do think this movie does heavily rely on CGI. I don't want to kind of criticize it too much, but it did kind of felt at some stages was a little bit over the top for the sake of it. But that's just kind of just nitpicking a little bit. But in general, the action just is just amazing, and the cinematography that they did to capture all those moments was brilliant. But also, I don't really like to nitpick this film too much because I really do think this is a great film. There are some characters in this film, mostly that you will find is a villain protagonist, but she doesn't really come across as a villain protagonist. I'm not going to kind of give the names out or where she's kind of related to, because I don't want to kind of get into the spoilers of it. But she's kind of used in this film as a villain, but she's not really given much of a screen time as well as a presence or motivation of who she is. So sometimes I'm kind of watching her as just this sort of villain for the sake of being a villain, I guess. So I think sometimes this movie could do better with kind of introducing some characters a little bit, kind of giving more of the details. And I think there was also like some aspects of characters who were villains that some worked for the TVA as well, and they kind of did something with the timelines and everything. Those aren't really described very well to really sort of bring up, the film's narrative in any sense. But I do think this movie isn't really solely based on having a narrative. It's kind of just giving people the entertainment of a satirical superhero film, really kind of emphasizing on, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's on-screen chemistry as Deadpool Wolverine, and just the carnage that just goes around it. And overall, because of this, I genuinely think Marvel has done something right for once. And I approve of this. And I certainly would say, watching this, even if you're not into the superhero films and you just get into this movie first time just completely blind, you will enjoy this film 100%. So, overall, if I have to rate Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm going to give this movie a solid 9 out of 10. It's amazing. Like, even some of the points that I kind of make bits of critique for are just very minor, and they don't diminish the film's quality at all. But this is genuinely a really good superhero movie, and thankfully Marvel has delivered something really refreshing for once that actually the audience actually likes. And I think if they kind of deliver a lot of this quality of films and this sort of level of quality throughout, I think they can actually win the fans over with this sort of quality of films, essentially. Kind of repeating the points, but you get what I'm saying. But yeah, let me know what you think of this movie if you have watched it. And please like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you want to dislike. And yeah, that's about it. See you later.